Patrick Dugan, the founder and CIO of Cryptocurrency Concepts. We're out here in the Bitcoin world doing automated trading systems. We're offering a revolutionary ETF-style product that's going to trade, I think, on the Mastercoin exchange. I have yet to make a final decision there, but probably sometime in the next 6 to 10 weeks we're going to launch a few funds. And of course, beyond system design, I do manual trading in the markets. And I had a pretty good trading day today, trading Bitcoin USD. And I felt like watching a YouTube video of somebody reciting passages from Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, which is one of my favorite books on the subject of the markets. And there's no such video until right now, and I'm doing it for you. So I'm going to lay this one on you. This is one of my favorite chapters, Chapter 4. Alright, I'll read it to you. The average ticket hound, or as they used to call him, tapeworm, goes wrong, I suspect, as much from over-specialization as from anything else. It means a very highly expensive inelasticity. After all, the game of speculation isn't all mathematics or set rules, however rigid the main laws may be. Even in my tape reading, something enters that is more than mere arithmetic. There's what I call the behavior of a stock, actions that enable you to judge whether or not it's going to proceed in accordance with the precedents that your observations have noted. In other words, what he's saying is, backtesting isn't a silver bullet. If a stock doesn't act right, don't touch it, because being unable to tell precisely what is wrong, you cannot tell which way it is going. No diagnosis, no prognosis. No prognosis, no profit. It's a very old thing, this of noting the behavior of a stock and studying its past performance. When I first came to New York, there was a broker's office where a Frenchman used to talk about his chart. At first, wait, is this the chapter that I want to read? Yeah, okay. I'm going to skip down the chapter, because this goes on. Old school books, they go on and on. Okay. It's talking about the brokerage and the customers, and they're all hanging out, and you see the behavior of a trader. The customers, who were all eager to be shoved and forced into doing things so as to lay the blame for failure on others, used to go to old Partridge. Alright, let me back up a little bit. Okay. Most, let's call them customers, are alike. You find very few who can truthfully say that Wall Street doesn't owe them money. In Fullerton's, there was the usual crowd, all grades. Well, there was one old chap who was not like the others. To begin with, he was a much older man. And another thing was that he never volunteered advice and never bragged of his winnings. He was a great hand for listening very attentively to others. He did not seem very keen to get tips. That is, he never asked the talkers what they'd heard or what they knew. But when somebody gave him one, he always thanked the tipster very politely. Sometimes he thanked the tipster again when the tip turned out okay. But if it went wrong, he never whined, so that nobody could tell whether he had followed it or let it slide by. It was a legend of the office that the old jigger was rich and could swing quite a line. But he wasn't donating much to the firm in the way of commissions, at least not that anybody could see. His name was Partridge, but they nicknamed him Turkey because behind his back, because he was so thick-chested and had a habit of strutting around the various rooms with the point of his chin resting on his breast. The customers, who were all ego to be shoved and forced into doing things so as to lay the blame for failure on others, used to go to old Partridge and tell him that some friend of an insider had advised them to do in a certain stock. They would tell him what they had not done with the tip, so he would tell them what they ought to do. But whether the tip that they had was to buy or sell, the old chap's answer was always the same. The customer would finish his tale of perplexity and then ask, "What do you think I had to do?" Old Turkey would cock his head to one side, contemplate his fellow customer with a fatherly smile, and finally he would say very impressively, "It's a bull market." Time and time again I heard him say, "Well, this is a bull market, as though he were giving you a priceless talisman wrapped in $1 million accident insurance policy." Now that's writing you don't see much in the first half of the 20th century. I quite like that bit. Anyways, And, of course, I did not get his meaning. One day, a fellow named Elmer Harwood rushed into the office, wrote out an order, and gave it to the clerk. Then he rushed over to where Mr. Partridge was listening politely to John Fanning's story of the time he overheard Keene give an order to one of his brokers, and all that John made was a measly 3 points on 100 shares. And, of course, the stock had to go up 24 points in 3 days right after John sold out. It was the fourth time that John had told him that tale of woe. But old Turkey was smiling as sympathetically as if it was the first time he heard it. How am I doing on time? They're going to cut me off in 5 minutes. All right, great. Well, Elmer made for the old man, and without a word of apology to John Fanning, told Turkey, "Mr. Partridge, I have just sold my Climax Motors. My people say the market is entitled to reaction, and that I'll be able to buy it back cheaper, so you'd better do likewise. That is, if you've still got yours." Elmer looked suspiciously at the man to whom he had given the original tip to buy. The amateur or gratuitous tipster always thinks he owns the receiver of his tip, body and soul, even before he knows how the tip is going to turn out. Partridge replied, "Yes, Mr. Harwood, I still have it, of course," said Turkey gratefully. It was nice of Elmer to think of the old chap. "Well, now is the time to take your profit and get in ahead on the next dip," said Elmer, as if he had just made out the deposit slip for the old man. Failing to perceive enthusiastic gratitude in the beneficiary's face, Elmer went on, "I have just sold every share I owned." From his voice and manner, you would have conservatively estimated it at 10,000 shares. But Mr. Partridge shook his head regretfully and whined, "No, no, I can't do that." "What?" yelled Elmer. "I simply can't," said Mr. Partridge. He was in great trouble. "Didn't I give you the tip to buy it?" "You did, Mr. Harwood, and I'm very grateful to you." "Indeed I am, sir, but—" Hold on, let's talk. "And didn't that stock go up 7 points in 10 days, didn't it?" "It did, and I'm very much obliged to you, my dear boy. And I couldn't think of selling that stock." "You couldn't?" asked Elmer, beginning to look doubtful himself. It is a habit that most tip givers to be tip takers. "No, I couldn't." "And why not?" And Elmer drew nearer. "Why, this is a bull market," the old fellow said, as though he had given it a long and detailed explanation. "That's all right," said Elmer, looking angry because of his disappointment. "I know this is a bull market as well as you do, and you better sell them that stock of yours and buy it back on the reaction. You might as well reduce the cost to yourself." "My dear boy," said old Partridge in great distress, "my dear boy, if I sold that stock now, I'd lose my position. And then where would I be?" Elmer Harwood threw up his hands, shook his head, and walked over me to get sympathy. "Can you beat it?" he asked me in a stage whisper. "I asked you. I didn't say anything." And so he went on. "I gave him a tip on Climax Motors. He buys 500 shares. He's got 7 points profit. I advise him to get out and buy him back on the reaction that's overdue even now. And what does he sell? Sells me that if he sells, he'll lose his job. What do you know about that?" "I beg your pardon, Mr. Harwood. I didn't say I'd lose my job," cut in old Turkey. "I said I'd lose my position. And when you're as old as I am and you've been through as many booms and panics as I have, you'll know that to lose your position is something nobody can afford, not even John D. Rockefeller. I hope the stock reacts and that you'll be able to repurchase your line at a substantial concession, sir. But I myself can only trade in accordance with the experience of many years. I paid a high price for it, and I don't feel like throwing away a second tuition fee. But I am as much obliged to you as if I had the money in the bank. It's a bull market, you know." And he strutted away, leaving Elmer dazed. Well, that is key life lesson. Couple other lines that are key here. I don't want to do multiple videos on this, so I'll just get the pearls out. "It was never my thinking that made the big money for me. It was always my sitting." Got that? My sitting tight. It is no trick at all to be right on the market. You always find lots of early bulls in bull markets and early bears in bear markets. I've known many men who were right at exactly the right time and began buying or selling stocks when prices were at the very level which showed the greatest profit, and their experience invariably matched mine. That is, they made no real money out of it. Men who can be both right and sit tight are uncommon. And I personally am definitely not one of them. Either or is usually the case when I make money. Old man partridges and assistants. And when I'm right and I'm not sitting tight, I make scalps and then taking proportional risks in my reward. Let's see, pick out a few other ones. Of course, there's always a reason for fluctuations, but what the tape does not concern itself with the why and wherefore. It doesn't go into explanations. The reason that a certain market does something today may not be known for 2 or 3 days or weeks or months, but what in the dickens does that matter? Your business with the tape is now, not tomorrow. The reason can wait, but you must act instantly or be left.